For decades, NASCAR would open up its season at the Daytona International Speedway for a multi-week racing extravaganza aptly named Speedweeks. Now, with Speedweeks turning into Speed Days, we may not see a spread of dominance at the 2.5-mile behemoth as long and absolute ever again as compared to what we're talking about today. So the criteria for this video for me was as so. Win 3 races in Speedweeks, since there were at least 3 races in 1979 onwards. That is 42 seasons. Of those 42 seasons, 13 of them were seasons that saw a different winner in every race. On top of this, in 23 seasons, one driver would have won 2 of the races, whether that be the Clash and Duels, the Duels in the 500, the Clash in 500, the Busch Series race in the 500, and so on, whatever combinations you want to think of. While no one has ever swept the Clash, Duels, Busch Race, and 500, 6 times a driver has won 3 of the 4, and all 6 times that feat was done by someone named Earnhardt. 4 by Dale Earnhardt, 2 by Dale Earnhardt Jr. So what's the X factor? What X factor could I possibly bring to the table that raises one of these above the other? And that just leads us to a year that is all too familiar with Earnhardt fans, 2004, the only remaining year that the driver who won 3 Speedweek races won the Daytona 500. So the man that has done this, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Jr. at plate tracks in the early 2000s was nearly unbeatable, but aside from his emotional 2001 victory in the summer Daytona race, his luck in Cup at Daytona was not nearly as good as it was at Talladega. But in 2003, the tides were turning, and it looked like Jr. was going to make history. He started out with his first Clash win in thrilling fashion.
Take a deep breath. Show me what you got. Junior's 2-4. He doesn't need to get way out there like that. They're going to get a run on him when they come off a 2 over here. That was what Jeff Gordon did. He dropped back just a teeny bit so he can get a big run down the back.
And here he comes. Ryan Newman is right with Jeff Gordon in his tire tracks.
1 lap to go, and 16 of the 19 cars are right there within a second of each other.
They can't do it. They can't catch him.
Junior dropped to the bottom to try to break that draft, and now swings back up high to lead them into turn 3. Johnson to the apron and hangs onto it.
Woo. Woo. Boxed.
Ryan Newman held the bottom line.
Boxed, yeah. He had to get out of the throttle, and you see him going backwards.
Second last year to Tony Stewart. Dale Earnhardt Jr. started last and will finish first in the Busch shootout.
Now having won the Clash, Jr. was on his way in 2003 for his first sweep. This became more of a reality after his Daytona 125 win on Thursday.
1 lap to go, white flag.
There you go.
You heard Ty Norris, his spotter, tell him, protect that bottom.
Got to stay on the bottom now. This is no time to be pulling somebody. Don't worry about that. You just win this race. Stay on the bottom. Michael will take care of himself.
Well, 3 wide at the back of the pack. Now, all of these cars are in the 500 if they cross the finish line.
And they all know it, and I've got a pretty good idea. You'll see that they're going to use good manners coming to the line. Timmy Johnson would like to get to the outside here, but Tony's not going to allow that.
Every position you get from here to the line, you start 1 row further forward to the 500, and here they come.
Yep.
Dale Jr. to win it. Waltrip, Bodine, Wallace, Stewart.
So 2 down and 2 to go. The Busch race was next.
For Kenseth, normally you want the people behind you to race side by side where you can pull away. I think Kenseth's only hope is one of those guys get up there to help him.
Todd Bodine slices to the inside and grabs a spot. McMurray way up high in the orange number 1.
I tell you, that one car is fast, but he just can't get it. He's trying to do it on the outside, and it's not working for him.
Time running out. 1.5 laps to go.
And McMurray in the 1, he's trapped on the high side now.
Trouble.
That's Vassar. Jimmy Vassar in the 30.
And he takes Jason Keller with him hard into the outside wall.
Right
and then gets hit hard by Mike McLaughlin.
Now this will be the race here. Remember, they will not red flag this race as they come to the white flag and the caution. This is the race for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And thus, we are led to the Daytona 500. Going into it, Jr. and his DEI teammate Michael Waltrip were the favorites for the race. This was at the peak of their dominance at restrictor plate racing. Sure, Hendrick Motorsports was DEI's most dangerous adversary at the time, with drivers Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. But when you look at the first and second place finishes that the 8 and 15 got in this time, there was no match. You basically knew that one of these two cars was going to win. It was merely a race for third. And for the first part of the race, this held true. That was until after the rain delay passed through. Then, the trouble started to rise.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s crew on the run toward that lead car. How come, Matt?
The car will not fire, Jake. Whenever ran a battery down there, Tony Eury Jr. is running down there. A number of crew members from the Bud guys are running down to see if they can help Dale Earnhardt Jr. A wrecker is making its way to the front of the grid.
Trying to give it a little push and bump start it there.
And I mean, we talk about this all the time, Darrell. You know, to win the Daytona 500, you got to have a good race car. You can't make any mistakes, but you know what? You got to have luck on your side too.
Yeah, and this is unfortunate. Looks like the battery's dead. Maybe he left something on when he got out of the car. Maybe he left something on.
CD player?
Maybe so. Larry, business is picking up.
Not for Dale Earnhardt Jr. though, Matt Yoakum.
DW, he says the car is starting to cut on and off. In fact, the last lap, he told his spotter, Ty Norris, to talk to Tony Stewart's spotter. Tell him that my car is starting to cut on and off. He's hitting me. I don't want him to spin me out. He is waving. He's going to pit. You can see his hand waving in the monitor. He's going to pit next time by.
After getting knocked off the lead lap, his chances of performing the sweep were virtually over. He was 2 laps down. And while he got one of those laps back, when the rains hit again with finality, his teammate Michael Waltrip had won his second Daytona 500 in 3 years, and Junior would end up a lap down in 36th position. Now you may be wondering why I have taken you down the memory lane of 2003 when I so clearly said that the best speed weeks for Dale Jr. was 2004. Well, simply to bring precedent of how hard it is to complete the sweep, even for the best plate racers ever. And this was also to show that before his dominance of 2004, he was damn close in 2003. Overall, DEI was a powerhouse at these tracks, and entering into 2004, DEI had won 9 of the past 12 points-paying races at the plate tracks. This was shown at the season-opening Budweiser Shootout.
To the outside.
That time by Harvick was
Just a little bit ahead of
the leader by 1/100th of a second. And Jarrett goes to the front in the 88.
Junior pushing Jarrett by. Now does Junior have enough time to make the move and make the back-to-back shootout wins?
Jarrett has got to make that car really wide right now.
He's trying.
Oh, Ryan Newman turned into the wall.
Jamie McMurray?
No caution yet.
They will race back to the line, and the caution will come out. Here they come to the line.
Dale Jarrett trying to block Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Gonna make it wide.
Junior looking low.
The other way.
Not going to happen. Budweiser shootout winner number 3 for Dale Jarrett.
With a second-place run in the Bud Shootout to Dale Jarrett, it meant that Junior would need to sweep the rest of the races he'd run in 2004 Speedweeks. Well, you're watching this video right now, so you know he's going to win it. But it's the way he wins it that is both unique and impressive. So going forwards to Thursday afternoon to the Gatorade 125s. At this time, the 125s were run in the afternoon sunlight, and the number 8 Chevy was hooked up for the daytime.
It's a pretty impressive record.
But Tony did complain about his car not being able to close up. You see that gap of 3 or 4 car lengths between him and the 8? That's really what he's complaining about. It will not make up that gap, will not close up on the back bumper of the car in front of him.
Well, his father won 12 of these Thursday qualifying races at Daytona. Today, Dale Earnhardt Jr. takes his second. Earnhardt Jr. wins race 1.
Now, usually, when you win the 125 race you're in, but not the pole award for the 500, you start third in the Great American Race. But pole sitter Greg Biffle would end up having to move to the rear of the field due to an engine change, which meant that when they would all roll off on Sunday afternoon, Dale Jr. would be rolling off from technically the first position. But first, he would have to race in Saturday's Busch Series race. Junior would roll off 8th in the 2004 Hershey's Kisses 300. It wouldn't be long, though, before he took the lead, But that wasn't all.
He gets a great run on the bottom of the racetrack, but it gets loose off the corner and goes up and catches, is that Strimmy and Wally?
Yeah. Johnny Benson in the 1, Nemechek in the 87.
With the rain hitting the cars, they'd be brought down to the pits and covered from the precipitation. This led to one of Junior's funniest interviews.
You love racing on the restrictor plate tracks in the Busch car, don't you?
Well, just a lot of fun. I mean, it's not your typical kind of racing, and I like it because it's more of a mind game, you know, than just who's got the best car, or the best driver that day, you know, because we all wake up on a different side of the bed every once in a while. But when you come to Daytona, it's pretty much anybody's game, and I like that factor. I like the drafting. I mean, there's not many tracks where you just catch a run on somebody and just blow by them and keep on going. It's just amazing to feel the draft that these cars create. Little Shane was telling me the next thing I need to do is drive a truck. He said I really wouldn't believe that shit.
The rain would only continue to intensify. With only 31 laps run in the event, it meant that the race wasn't official. NASCAR decided to call the race for the day and pick it back up on Monday morning. So it left the Daytona 500 next up on the slate, while the Busch Series race was postponed with Junior in the lead. The 500, on the other hand, would be set up to go off without a hitch. It was a bright, sunny day, though it wouldn't outshine the star-studded pre-race show that was punctuated by the visit of President George W. Bush. With the pre-race festivities finished, it was time to race. The opening part of the race would be familiar pack racing that many fans are accustomed to. And, for the most part, the usual players were up front, as well as Junior's teammate and top drafting partner Michael Waltrip, though it would be Waltrip who would provide the turning point of the day.
And what's at stake for him here? He's
trouble.
Contact on the backstretch. It's Michael Waltrip and now Brian Vickers. Robbie Gordon, 31. The top. Waltrip's over. 1, 2, 3 times for Michael Waltrip. Well, there's the big one.
With the crash, it meant that Junior's most effective drafting partner would be MIA. Luckily for the 8 team, he had one of his best drafting friends with him outside of Waltrip, Tony Stewart. Stewart and Junior both shared a strategy, and that was to lead the race and stay ahead of the crashers in the pack. That's exactly what both of them did for the remainder of the day. And this really worked well, as for the final 120 laps, the race remained under green flag conditions. By the end of the day, the front group of Tony Stewart, Dale Jr., a lapped down Kurt Busch, and Scott Wimmer were leading. Junior needed to get past Smoke, but there would be no reason for Kurt Busch to give aid to Earnhardt. Earlier in the race, Junior made contact with Busch's number 97 Ford, and the contact crumpled up his right front, and eventually the damage sent him down to the pits. Busch never regained his spot on the lead lap, and his crew chief Jimmy Fennig would allude that they held a grudge. It didn't matter though for Junior.
And act kind of like a blocker to help push him. Kevin Harvick and his teammate Jimmy Johnson are in that pack, so they're going to try to hook up as they're making a pass to the lead.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. going for the lead of the Daytona 500.
We'll see who 97 goes.
Not wanting to give it up.
97, who's he going with?
Gonna go with Stewart.
22, and he's going with Stewart.
I had to think he would.
Junior could not quite make it. He's still trying. Here he goes
look
again.
At this. Another run to the inside of Stewart, and he might have him this time.
A great run going to turn 3. He's got it.
Good job. You're clear.
New leader of the 500 is Dale Earnhardt Jr.
The pass was a show of true strength. And, in the end, Tony could do nothing but watch the Great 8 get the win.
You can't get emotional yet because you've got to get off turn 4 and back to the start-finish line.
You can see it now.
The legacy continues. Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins the 46th Daytona 500.
Great run for Wimmer, too. Fantastic. Bruce and everybody else there. And
They did it, man. You guys back home, we did it.
All right, Junior, stop right there and acknowledge these fans.
He's got something up his sleeve, I think.
Just get out and acknowledge these fans. They love you.
Here he comes.
Here he comes. Get out of the way from Tigers. Let me in there.
You want to know what winning this race means to someone? Have a look.
Junior had done it. He won the 2004 Daytona 500, only 3 years after the death of his father, and only 6 years to the day of his father's triumph in 1998. It would be the start of a great season for Earnhardt fans, but it still wasn't the end of Speedweeks, as the Busch race was still needing to be completed. So, on a less rainy Monday, the race resumed, with the Daytona 500 champion Dale Jr. in the lead. Though some may have been a little worse for wear at 11 a.m. After pitting, Junior rolled off 8th on lap 35, and this put him right in the eye of the storm. Even with that, Junior was hard-pressed to get to the front. It was the only safe place for the Oreos machine. Though, due to his drafting prowess, many were actually working against him past the halfway point, trying to keep him behind them. Yet every time they tried to shuffle him back, he'd only march right back up. And under caution, his crew helped him as well, jumping him from 10th to 4th. Yet coming to 37 to go, he was up to 2nd. And soon after, he passed Kevin Harvick for the lead. It was crunch time, and the Grade 8 wasn't playing around. If a driver got a run, they only could stay in the lead for maybe a lap before Junior would get right back in front of him. And after passing Johnny Sauter with 12 to go, he closed the deal out.
Johnny Sauter, Robbie Gordon, Kevin Harvick, the front four. Second group led by Matt Kenseth. As they come to the white flag. Final lap of Speedweeks 2004 Daytona. Can anyone draft by the 8 car and pick up the win, or will it be Dale Earnhardt Jr. with the sweep? Richard Childress Racing Associated drivers lined up behind Earnhardt Jr., but no one's been able to pass him for the last 30 laps.
And they just can't get close enough. The 27 can't close up on the rear bumper to make a run. It's not that he doesn't want to, he just can't.
Final turn. Final chance, and it's not going to be enough. After a big day and a win in the Daytona 500 yesterday, Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins the Hershey's Kisses 300.
After crossing the line, Dale Jr. burned down the house, completing the greatest run in the history of Speedweeks. Over the 4 races, he finished 2nd, 1st, and 1st yet again. He averaged an astonishing 1.25 average finish, and this win also put him in a small elite company for Daytona history as well. He is currently one of only 4 drivers to sweep the Busch Series race in the season opener and the Daytona 500. Bobby Allison did it in 1988. DW danced across the line in 1989. Of course, there's Dale Jr. in 04, and then Kevin Harvick, the closer, got it in 2007. It showed just how historic Junior's 2004 run was, and to this day, it may not ever be matched again. The only way that someone could beat this run is if they had the Triple Crown of the Clash, Duels, and 500. But until that's done, Dale Jr. reigns supreme as the Speedweeks master, done in 2004. And with that, I want to pass this all to you. Do you think that somebody can beat Dale Jr.'s 2004 Speedweeks performance? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, leave a like on this video. share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. And until next time, have a good one.